I just watched episode 2 of Black Mirror season 4, and it made me really, really angry, and I'm still really angry. For those of you who want to watch it and have not yet, I'm gonna spoil it, so don't continue watching if you don't want to get season 4 episode 2 spoiled, because I'm gonna spoil it. There's a lesson here. So in episode 2, can you guess what it's about? What's the only theme running through all of the Black Mirror episodes? There's one theme. Technology. It's the only theme. That's it. And since all of the world is pretending that all of this wondrous technology that has been created and given to us, I would say predominantly given to us, not created. Not created at this time anyway. Since the world pretends that it's all hunky-dory and fantastic and a really good idea to experiment as much as possible with zero wisdom with technology. That's how we've done it. Black Mirror shows the other side of the story, other possible sides of the story. And in this particular episode, there is a technology created called Archangel, and it involves implanting some sort of microchip into a human, in this case a baby girl, and whoever had it implanted or whoever ordered the service is given an iPad type of remote. And this technology detects everything that's going inside, everything that's going on inside of the person that has been implanted with the chip. It detects everything and relays that information in real time to the owner of the iPad. Including the ability to see out of the person's eyes. Including heart rate, including detecting any type of substances that are entering into the body. And as well, there is the ability to restrict what the person is viewing based on parameters that you set up. So in this case, the mother didn't want the child being traumatized by things, so she put on the safety filter, and when the girl's walking down the sidewalk and a dog is barking, it pixelates the dog and distorts the barking. Same thing with any blood, any violence, anything that is deemed as traumatic is filtered out from the actual person's eyeballs. So this goes on with this little girl from age, I don't know, 2 till she's maybe 6 or 7. And the whole time she doesn't know what's going on. But at some point she starts picking up that something's different with her than with the other kids. So she starts asking people. She asks some of the other school kids what's going on. So she's curious as to why she feels different. And it's normal to her, this pixelation and distortion of the sound. That's just normal to her because she's grown up with it. But at some point, she realizes what her mom is able to do with the iPad. And she realizes that blood is a trigger, so she sharpens a pencil, sticks her finger, and she wipes her face. And so the device on the mom's end sends out an alert. Mom finds out about it, comes to the daughter to find out what's wrong. She sees that her face has blood on it, and the daughter smacks her. She smacks her in the face. The daughter's like 6 or 7. So mom sends her to the psychiatrist to try to find out what's going on. And she gets a hint that perhaps this wasn't the best possible idea ever. So she decides to turn off the iPad, take off the safety restriction from her daughter. So her daughter walks to school, dog jumps up and barks like normal, but she freaks out a little bit because she's never seen it before in her entire life. And she sees people being angry, where that was kind of blocked out too. She sees fights in the schoolyard, where that was blocked out too. But she acclimates to it pretty quickly. And so her mom basically gives the impression that the thing's gonna stay turned off, but that's not how it goes. And another thing to note is that in this particular portrayal of this technology, the implant can't be removed. You can turn off the safety features, the alert features, the distortions, but you can't remove the implant. Because it wasn't like an implant, it was like nanites, microtechnology that enters the bloodstream. That's what it looked like. Whatever it was injected with a syringe. So then it fast forwards to the girl's growing up. You know, she's getting older. She's a teenager now. And mom hasn't been using the technology, but she still has the iPad. It's still connected. She just doesn't really use it. So when this girl is growing up, you know, she's like 14, 15 now. So she starts getting interested in boys, of course. And this kid named Trick invites her and her friend out to have a lake party. And the girl, of course, makes up some lie to her mom about what she's doing, and she says she's having a movie night with a friend, and she instead goes to the lake with this guy and a couple of his friends and one of her girlfriends. So mom goes out on a date too. She goes and sees her boyfriend or guy friend or whatever. She comes home and her daughter isn't there when she's supposed to be there. So mom calls the friend, asks if she's still at movie night, and the other friend says, oh, you know, they were never here. So mom starts getting worried. She calls all the other moms. None of the other moms know where anybody's at. So mom falls back on her trusty iPad to find out what's going on. And she brings up the screen, and it says that her daughter is at the lake. So now mom knows where she's at. But mom doesn't stop there. She turns on the viewfinder, which looks through her daughter's eyes, and she sees her daughter getting fucked by her boyfriend. So mom is like, oh my goodness. Right, mom is upset. But she turns it off. The girl eventually comes home, and mom pretends like nothing happened. Right? So girl doesn't know that mom's been spying. She thinks that mom has turned it off, or probably forgot that the thing even existed. So move forward a bit, and this kid is selling coke for side cash, and the daughter, like all stupid 15-year-olds, is curious about it and wants to try it. So he gives her some, and the little thing beeps the mom because it detects the illicit substance. And so mom watches her daughter like snorting a line of coke, and is mortified, of course, and still doesn't tell her daughter anything. So mom pulls up the boyfriend's picture. She sticks it in a facial recognition database. She finds out where he works, and she goes to his work, goes right up to him and says, leave my daughter the fuck alone. You're not allowed to ever speak to her again. You're not allowed to call her. If she calls you, you're not allowed to answer. She says, I have video evidence of you screwing my daughter. My daughter's 15. And if you so much as respond to anything from her, I will call the cops. So the kid says, he's scared, so he says, okay. So daughter is calling and texting her boyfriend, trying to find out what's going on, and he's ignoring her. So she eventually finds him in person and asks him why he's been ignoring her. And he says, we weren't right for each other, and I can't see you ever again. Because he's scared. So daughter gets all sad, doesn't understand what's going on. She goes home. She's depressed. Her mom still doesn't say anything. So daughter doesn't know anything still. And then a few weeks later, there's a scene where the mom is chopping up some sort of pill and sticking it in a smoothie and giving that to her daughter. Right? So daughter's at school, daughter's feeling sick, daughter goes and vomits, goes and visits the nurse. Nurse runs some tests and says, well, you know, the reason you're sick is because of this emergency contraceptive that you took. And don't worry about it, we stopped the pregnancy. And I won't red flag it, so it won't, you know, it won't cause any trouble at school, so it's okay, don't worry about it. So daughter's like, doesn't know what to think. Doesn't know what to do. Right? But she starts piecing some things together, and she realizes that she didn't ever take any emergency contraceptive that she knew of, and she probably realized that she could have been pregnant. So some puzzle pieces start aligning, and she runs home, tears the house apart, goes through all the trash, and she finds the emergency contraceptive. And so the next place she goes to look, and her mom is not home at this point, she goes and tears up her mom's room and finds the iPad. Then she looks through the iPad, she looks through all the history, and she sees herself having sex with her boyfriend. She sees herself snorting lines of coke, like a video, and she knows that her mom has been spying on her, and she knows now that her mom is responsible for all of the things that have happened. Not for the things that she did that her mom didn't like, but for basically splitting her and her boyfriend up and not telling her about any of it. So then mom comes home after all this, and she sees that the room has been torn up, the house has been torn up, there's shit flying all over the place, trash is everywhere. And mom probably starts getting nervous because she probably feels like, oh, maybe all of my spying has caught up to me. So she runs into her bedroom. She finds the iPad. She turns it on. She looks through her daughter's eyes. And she finds that she's looking at her own back. So she turns around. And daughter's there in her room. Very, very angry. So daughter asks her, you've been spying on me? You've been watching me without telling me? And so mom tries to defend herself, and she tries to say, you know, this is for your safety, and he's bad for you, and so on and so forth. And all these things. And mom is still holding the iPad. So the daughter comes up to her and she grabs it out. There's kind of a little brief struggle, and the daughter gets the iPad. And the mom is still trying to defend herself. She's still not saying sorry for any of it, and pissing her daughter off even more. And the daughter essentially grabs the iPad and beats the shit out of her mom with the iPad. Mom ends up on her back, on the ground, daughter's on top, smashing her face with his iPad. And the mom's face turns pixelated and the sounds get muted, so she gets her ass kicked even further because daughter can't see what she's actually doing. So all of the rage is unleashed, and there's not even any mitigation of it. And eventually the iPad breaks and the filter turns off, and the daughter sees what she actually did to her mom. And she sees that her face is destroyed, and she stops. She drops the iPad next to her mom, leaves the house, and is gone, right? So like half an hour later or whatever, mom wakes up after getting her ass kicked by her daughter, and she grabs her iPad, which is still kind of functioning a little bit. She can't really see very much on the screen, and she starts realizing what she's actually been doing the whole time. It starts actually sinking in, and she grabs the iPad and stumbles out the front door with blood running down her face, and she runs into the street, you know, screaming Sarah, and there's no Sarah anywhere. Sarah's gone. Mom's in the street crying and screaming with her broken iPad, and the last scene of the episode has Sarah with all her, well, with her little bag of clothes, hitching a ride from a trucker. And that's how it ends. That's how the episode ends. And when I watched that, when I was done with that, I was just really angry. I was really pissed off. That's not a motorcycle, that's a motorhome. It just sounds like a motorcycle. Just really angry, just like flabbergasted. Just I was just like, what the fuck? The problem here is that we're allowed to fuck ourselves. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're allowed to. That's part of free will. You are allowed to fuck yourself. And everybody else that's affected by you, which is everybody else that exists. Which people don't seem to realize that that's the fact. They seem to think that they're sitting inside of a little bubble and that they only affect like the 2 or 3 people, right, sitting next to them. Or they only affect their families. And that they can treat the rest of the world like shit, or they can be scared of the rest of the world, or whatever. People don't seem to realize that everything that they do, all of this meddling, all of this mad scientist bullshit that has been done affects the whole thing, like up and down, and forward and backward through time. People don't seem to grasp that. Like solace, you gotta grasp. It's deep. And this thing that the mom is doing, comes from fear. It comes from a position of ignorance. It comes from not having inner wisdom. It comes from not having trust in the actual source of things, which is not related to technology. Technology is an aspect within the whole. But people use it as if it's a god. That's how we've been using it. We like to godify everything. Well, not everything. We like to godify technology. Because it makes us feel safe when we're scared. Another problem with technology is that if you're using it without understanding the ramifications, without understanding how it's affecting the whole, you're being irresponsible. It's like being given powers that you didn't earn. It's like somebody hands you the keys to an airplane. I know they don't have keys, but whatever. You're being given access to an airplane, and you don't know how to fly. You don't know any of the procedures. You don't know aerodynamics. You don't know the physics of plane flight. You don't know how to read the radar stuff. You don't know about altitude. You don't know about crosswinds and whatnot. Updrafts, downdrafts, changes in atmospheric pressure. You don't know about any of it. But somebody told you that if you get in this plane and fly, or rather if you have the capacity to do so, then it's going to be great, because if a catastrophe is coming, you can escape. So it feels like a safety measure. But you don't know the first thing about airplanes or flying. So when this so-called catastrophe comes, and you're scared, you're like, oh, I better hop in my plane because somebody told me that was going to save me if this ever happened. So you hop in the plane, turn it on, you know just enough to get that sucker going fast. Somehow you get it off the ground. You know, and then you just crash like 50 yards later and die because you're stupid and you don't know how to fly the airplane. All of the powers that technology gives us were gleaned from the technology is all imitation of the natural world. Just like an airplane is an imitation of a bird. It's a stupid imitation. It's not a very good one. It requires gasoline and 30 combustion engines. Your cameras, that's an imitation of the eyeball. Your picture itself is an imitation of the human's memory. A poor one. A really shitty imitation. Every single bit of technology that we have is an imitation of something that naturally existed beforehand. And it's all inferior to the natural. Every bit. So when it's used with people who don't know what the fuck they're doing, And that's pretty much all cases. If you look at the situation at hand, it's used by ignorant people. And it creates problems, which must then be solved and remedied with, guess what? More technology and more ignorance. It's a vicious cycle. And this is just a really small form. This is like a precursor. This is peanuts. It's like a warning. It's just like the story of that boat. I forgot what it was called, but my friend told me the story about the people that developed the ability to teleport human beings. Now, you can believe or disbelieve this, it makes no difference, but the story goes that these guys were teleported into a ship. Well, the whole ship and the people were teleported together to some other location. And when the thing, you know, popped into existence 1,000 miles from where it was ported from, well, there was a small issue and everything didn't port over exactly correctly, and now you have a half ship, half human being. Well, all the humans were still there, but they were inside the ship. And I don't mean inside the ship like inside the cabin, they were like inside the steel, partially inside, partially outside. It's still alive for like a couple split seconds. Or so the story goes, but you can imagine. It's exactly the same thing as creating a bunch of Frankensteins, i.e. the human populace. Okay, they're all broken, mismatched, different arm here, different leg there. Each eyeball is from somewhere else. All the hairs are transplanted, and the thing doesn't work very well. It's like creating a bunch of Frankensteins, and then when the things break, because they were poorly made, well, then you gotta create more band-aids made out of technology. And so you keep repairing the Frankensteins, and they keep kind of barely working, but they just don't work well, and they're not very happy either. So I got really angry after watching that. And I know it's not just humans to blame. I know there are other entities going on here. I understand that. It's just frustrating sometimes. It's just like, you know, Og posted on Facebook that nobody ever says anything. He's frustrated too. But the thing is, Alan Watts said this. He said that at a certain point, when the world's about to be blown up with some nuclear holocaust, and people are trying to figure out what to do about it, he said sometimes the best thing to do is to do nothing. Stop doing shit. Take a step back. Let the system repair itself. Let the source. The existence itself is intelligent. It doesn't need your help. That's God. God is the whole thing. The technology within it is like some sort of virus that fucks things up. Some mad scientist nonsense. And the way out is to stop trying to fix it. Look within, find that intelligent source within you, and seek guidance from that. And don't let your ego attempts at fixing things or making yourself feel safe, don't let that act as the prime director of your movements. Because that pushes it, just makes it worse. Dude, like, you seen the, the dystopian movies where the grid goes down or there's been a war or something and the city gets abandoned, and what happens? The forest grows up around it. It devours the city. It disintegrates back into the earth. The existence doesn't have any problem taking care of bullshit that we've done, but we gotta stop doing it. This has been a really long rant. I haven't been that affected by a TV show in a really, really long time. Let me know what you think. Happy New Year.